Right, let's make a start. First thing, as usual with all these things, I just want to check that you can all hear me. So if you can hear me, can you raise your hand in the application or put a comment in? Yes, lots of hands being raised. Excellent. Good. Right, we'll make the assumption you can all hear me. And we'll move on. My name's Ian Robinson. I'm the infrastructure consultant here at Graitec. I know a lot of you have been here before and seen my presentations, but for those of you that haven't met me, I've been doing this for over 18 years now, and my main role is training, consulting, presenting, and generally evangelizing geospatial and civil engineering and BIM workflows. In the Autodesk world, so that will include things like AutoCAD, AutoCAD Map 3D, Civil 3D, Infraworks, which is what we're doing today, vehicle tracking, Recap if you do any point clouds, and Navisworks for your federated models and clash detection and things like that. So all civilly type stuff. Graitec, there's mainly 4 pillars to what we do here at Graitec. We create, we simulate, fabricate, and manage. So the way we do that is we work with the Autodesk portfolio and our own Power Pack enhancements. That helps obviously in the creation of construction and manufacturing deliverables. And then we combine these with our own simulation products to verify those deliverables. And also that enables us to drive them into the fabrication process, where once again, we can manage them deliverables. And we also have some CDE products. We've got our own Graitec Managed division with OpenTree as our main flagship product there. And that works with things like BIM 360 and stuff like that. Now, this class is very much in the create phase, this webinar, should I say, in the create phase using Infraworks. And the project I started last week was a preliminary design with a Revit model. It was a building, basically. And we're going to continue with that one and add some more detail today. This is the second in a series of webinars covering Infraworks. I've had a lot of people asking me, they're new to the AEC collection and they want to know what they can do with Infraworks. So last week I ran the beginner's guide to Infraworks. I know some of you were on that one. For those that missed that, you will see that on the on-demand part of our website. And this webinar will give you a little bit more information on top of that one and show you how you can create your own libraries and how you can use them time and time again. As I said, it is a series, so next week we will continue and we'll look at quantities, getting rudimentary quantities out of your model at a very early stage. Could be really useful. And then after that, I'll show you how you can share your models. And then we'll finish it up with what we're doing last, surfaces, working with multiple surfaces. It's a relatively new feature, it's not totally new. But I will be continuing with this theme of new to some, and we'll be looking at the GIS tools available to all AutoCAD users, using AutoCAD Map 3D instead of vanilla AutoCAD. How you work with maps and, well, to be more precise, how you work with GI data or geographical information. And then lastly, again on the same theme of new to some, I'll be looking at the new collaboration for Civil 3D with Autodesk BIM 360. So that's the latest round. And as I mentioned, we have this on-demand area. So anything you've missed, most of them will go in here. There's a link here. If you go to the handouts area, this presentation can be downloaded as a PDF, and these links will take you straight there. Or you can just go to our website, www.graitec.co.uk, and you'll see the events page in there as well. Last week's beginner's guide is on there already. So while you're on our website, by the way, you can also have a look at our blog. So we do quite a lot of blogs. Over the last few weeks, I've been doing an awful lot of webinars. So not so many blogs, but lots of webinars. Just really kind of supporting all this COVID nonsense that's going on at the moment. Nonsense sounds like I'm a non-believer. I just mean the nonsense that's going around this COVID thing. You can, as I say, download this PDF, and there is also a guide in there as well to digital data. which I'll come to in a second. Just going to do a quick poll. It's the same poll that we did last week, but if you wouldn't mind answering, if you did answer last week, that would be useful. So let me just launch the first one. If I can do it correctly, I think I pressed that button. There we are. Are you currently furloughed? There's an awful lot of spellings of furloughed out there, and that's the one I've settled on. I'm going to go with that one, but you can decide on that. And more than half of you have voted, 3/4 have voted now. I'll close the poll in a second. And the answer is no. Can I share that with you? There you go. The answer is no. I did that bottom one in there, yes, but my boss is making me work, based on a BBC News article that I read this morning, that there's quite a lot of bosses out there that are furloughing staff and making them work, which is not good at all. Okay, so next question. Are you back in the office, or working from home, or are you working on site? You can tick all that apply. And of course, if you're furloughed, you'll not be working, or if you're not employed, just put not working. But yeah, just tick all that apply. Okay, that's an interesting result. Most of you have answered. Let me close that and share that with you. So everybody's working from home, but some of you are a little bit in the office, which is really interesting. And I think that from what I've been talking to people, that sounds like this new norm in inverted commas looks like that's what it's going to be. A lot of people doing a bit of working from home and a bit of the office, which I quite like. I like the idea of that. And next, are you using? Do you have the AE collection, AutoCAD, Map3D, Civil 3D, or Infraworks? If you have the AEC collection, you have all of them. You can just tick that. But if you have AutoCAD and you don't have the AEC collection, tick that. If you have Map3D or Civil 3D, you can tick them. And if you have Infraworks, tick that. But as I say, if you have the AEC collection, you don't need to tick them all. If you just tick that, I know you've got them all. Last week people ticked them all. That's fine if you do that. It's not the end of the world. Okay, most of you have voted now. Oh, hang on. Somebody unable to interact with the poll. Oh, okay. All right, Kieran, sorry about that. You can answer them in the questions if you want. But if you interacted with it last week, don't worry about it. Okay, let me just close that poll because most of you have answered. Okay, so most of you have got the AEC collection. Yeah, nobody's got Map3D. That's interesting. If you have AutoCAD and you don't have the AEC collection, you can have Map3D. So you can install Map3D and make it look exactly like your AutoCAD with one button click. It will look exactly like your AutoCAD, but a lot of the geospatial tools that I'll be working with using Infraworks, because it has the same engine in it, will also be available to you then in Map3D, which is rather nice. You can also link data in Map3D. And if you ever look at my Working with OS Maps webinar that I run a couple of weeks ago, you'll see I use that to link data to give me building heights, for example, in Infraworks. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay, next question, and the last one you'll be pleased to know. Are you using Infraworks? So just answer the one, you either don't have it, Infraworks, or you do have it but you use it all of the time on most of the projects, or do you use it a little bit, maybe on the odd project, or you've got it and you've never used it at all, you've not even opened it up. And if you don't know, if you ticked I've got the AEC collection, the answer is I've got it and I've never used it. Okay. Again, the same number of people have answered, so I'm going to close that now and share that. and the majority pretty much have it and use it a little bit, which is good, which is very good. 11% using it all the time, which is brilliant, and 11% don't have Infraworks. So you're just here to see what all the hub's about, which is great. I'm really pleased to see, in particular, people who don't have it, which is a great way forward. Right, let's carry on then, and we'll just catch up with what we did last week. So the agenda I'm going to work with today is I'll just do a very brief recap on what we did last week, just so that those of you that weren't here last week, you will see it, what we talked about last week, and then we'll just go straight into libraries, and we'll be looking at creating libraries and how they're managed, and exporting libraries and importing libraries. So just recapping on last week, what is Infraworks? That's the first question. And it's a preliminary and a conceptual design tool. It's basically a place that you can build ideas, try things out, do options and stuff like that. If you like, it's a box full of content that will allow you to build a virtual world. And on that digital world, you can design new stuff, such as new landform, footpaths, cycle paths, roads, drainage, bridges. And the best bit about it is that you can use that model when you move into the design stage. Often with software, you kind of do something with it, and then it's siloed in that piece of software. But once we've designed things in here, we can move certain elements into Revit, and we can move elements into Civil 3D, which therefore puts it into AutoCAD or Map 3D or any geospatial application. Everything you do in here is reusable. The other thing that it is it's a little bit of a collaboration tool. You can bring together Revit models, AutoCAD models, SketchUp models, Inventor, 3ds Max models, or files, as well as GIS data such as landform or constraint information like flooding or SSSI data. It allows you to place these items automatically if they're already georeferenced. You just drag and drop, or you can position them yourself if they're not georeferenced, like you would maybe with a building. This doesn't mean that it's a replacement for Navisworks. It's not. This is for early stage design, and it's a way of bringing disciplines together in this early stage design. It won't do things like clash detection and stuff like that. And the third thing that it primarily is it's a presentation tool. And again, it's not a replacement for existing software such as 3ds Max. You won't get photorealistic images and videos out. But at any stage of the design, actually, I know I'm talking about early stage design, but even when you're finished, you can bang your model back into Infraworks. So you've got your finished design and do some quick presentations. You can get images out, you can get videos out, and you can even share it on the internet. And this whole process that we're going to go through, these 5 webinars in the series, we will be showing you that element as well. The way the software holds the data, it can be stored locally, so you can install it obviously on your PC or your laptop, and the models can be stored on that hard drive if you want, or you can store them on your central server. So again, it's a local model, it's within your organization, but it's on your central server so that everybody within your organization that has access to that central server can also get to the model. Or you can store it in the cloud using BIM 360 Docs. So if you have BIM 360 Docs, that opens up a whole new load of possibilities. You can control access to the model. So if you are in BIM 360 Docs, you can control access to people or to teams or to companies. So you've got multiple ways of managing that data. And you can share it on the web. So that means anybody with a URL can view the model on any device, whether it be Android, Apple, or PC, or whatever, with or without an Autodesk software license at all. You don't even need to install anything. It will run in a web browser. And they can even do things like markup and clever things like that. For the data that you need in there, as I mentioned, I have done this beginner's guide to digital data called the GIS-BIM Conundrum. It's up there on the web. There's a link actually. If you download this, that GIS thing is a link. The GIS-BIM, the underlined bit of wording, you know what I mean. That's a link. So if you download the presentation, you can go straight to that. That goes to the on-demand portal, and that'll tell you everything you need to know about data. In addition, I've added a document into the handout area. I'll just have a quick look what I called it. I've forgotten already. It's called a Guide to Autodesk Infrastructure Data Sources. And that tells you where the data comes from when you're using Model Builder in Infraworks. Also, it's mainly for the UK audience, so it's got a lot of the Ordnance Survey data in there as well. It tells you a little bit about how that data works and what you can do with it and where you can get it from as well. And again, for example, if you're an AutoCAD user and you download AutoCAD Map instead, it don't cost you anything, but you can use a lot of that data in there. So, for example, I could add in a connection directly to the Environment Agency and have a view of their flood data in my AutoCAD model. So really useful. Okay, let's go start talking about the libraries now, and then we'll have a quick demonstration of that. Libraries, put simply, are a way to organize your stuff. Okay, there's a whole load of them already installed in Infraworks, and you can expand that with your own content. These can be points of interest such as vegetation, vehicles, people, even buildings. It's really limited only by your imagination and your ability to create or find already created content. It can also be parametric structural models such as bridges. Again, there's some in the box already, and you can expand them with Inventor. So if you have Inventor, you can create your own stuff in there and put that into Infraworks and store them in a library. Sticking with parametric design, this can be road assemblies as well, or footpaths, or any linear assembly. And yeah, if you're a Civil 3D user, I'm using the term assembly in the same context as I would in Civil 3D. They're a lot simpler in here, though. They don't have all the multiple materials and the actual design elements of it, like offsets and stuff. But it has all the parametric design tools in there, and you can make your own and save them in libraries. Pipes and structures. So there's a package installed with Civil 3D and with Infraworks, and that's called the Infrastructure Parts Modeler. And that will allow you to create your own structures and model them. It's a bit like modeling them, because you can do this in Inventor as well. And it's a bit like you can model these in Inventor, put them into the Infrastructure Part Editor. It creates a bit like assemblies. There's 3 elements that you have, a top, a middle, and a bottom. And that will build your own parts library for your pipes and structures. And you can also create libraries of landmarks. And landmarks are really important, I think, in Infraworks. You know, maybe libraries of things like churches or statues. They're really useful when you go to presenting your model, because it adds a lot more weight to your proposal if it includes items that everyone will recognise. Now, I don't mean sticking the Eiffel Tower in the Yorkshire Dales, but imagine seeing a proposal next to the Eiffel Tower and not seeing the Eiffel Tower. I've done many a proposal in cities, and I've looked for content for City Hall, because everybody knows where City Hall is and what it looks like. Stick that in the model if it's relevant, and you'll find that you'll get a lot more weight to your proposals. It goes a little bit further than that, though. You can also create libraries from anything you insert into the model. So if you put a Revit building in, or an AutoCAD 3D model, or a SketchUp file, or an IMX, 3ds Max, or a Collada file. Collada files, if you haven't come across them, it stands for Collaborative Design Activity, and it's an interchange format for 3D models, and it includes animations if you want. That standard has been adopted by the ISO standards, and if you're really interested into the boring facts, it's PAS 17506 if you want to know. So that is a standard that can be shared throughout the industry. We'll have a quick look at some stuff like that. So once you've created your library and you've got your model in there, you can export it, ready for use in the next model. Go to your next model and simply import it back in, and then you'll have that same tools all ready for you. we can keep things nice and tidy and nice and accessible as well. Okay, so let's go to our project and have a look. This is where we finished up last week. If you remember, this is Glenridding up in the Lake District. Flooded quite badly in 2015, I think it was. And we put some flood data in, and we used Model Builder, and then we went to the Environment Agency, and we got some higher quality land data. And then just for speed, we trimmed it down, and then we can open it back up when we come to sharing it at the end of the project. And this is our Revit model that we started doing here. And we started building that. Okay, and that's where we got to. So now we're going to start creating our own libraries of things that we can use in our next model. And while we're doing that, we'll build this model up as well. So your libraries are found in the content style palettes in here. Okay, when you open that up, it opens up the style palette, which looks like this. And last week I already had these imported, these fences in here imported as a library element. There's lots of different ways of working with this library. This top section here is basically the catalog editor. So this allows us to put folders in here. If I go to 3D models, for example, these folders, these are catalogs, and we can add new folders, delete folders, we can import folders or export folders for saving. We can copy folders and we can rename folders. Down the bottom, these are for the elements, so the individual elements, where I can create a new barrier here or a new coverage area down here. I can delete one. I can copy one into a different folder. That's what that button does. Or I can copy it into this folder. And that's quite useful, isn't it? It's how you would work with AutoCAD blocks. You'd create one, and then you want to create one that's very similar but different. You would copy the first one, edit it, and then save that. So we can do that in here. That one renames, and that one edits it. Having said that, the edit button, if I select it, you'll see it highlights it. I can click the edit button, but I've never clicked that in my life, because if you just double click it, it goes into the edit function. So you can do that there. These libraries cover everything in Infraworks: barriers, coverages, building facades, isn't it? Which are just images, and you can get your own images in here. You can put your own images in there, and 3D models. So you'll see in City Furniture, there's a 3D model in here of, let's find something interesting, an electric box. I find these up, these previews are really useful. If I make that bigger, it's a fully fledged 3D view of the model. And we saw that last week when I imported the Revit model. We could go to the 3D view first and check it out, make sure it looks okay. We can do translations in here, etc. We can also change the level of detail in here. Not once you've imported it, but when you import the Revit one. Remember when we imported the Revit one, I set it to direct display. So it gives us the highest quality display. It doesn't dumb it down as you zoom away. Parametric models, so things like bridges. So abutments, they're all in here. And there's our abutment. These are imported into from Inventor, and I've done a presentation on that in the past as well. Anybody who joined me on the workflows presentation, I ran it twice, then you'll have seen that. Materials. Now materials are split into groups, so you can group materials together, or they are individual materials. And you can go out with your digital camera, take a picture, and put it in as a material if you want. So if I pick, for example, fences and fence, so that wooden fence there has this material applied to it, and it just repeats. Okay, and look, it's just a JPEG. I can go in here and I can import a PNG, a JPEG, or a DDS file. DDS is it's more of an internal one, but most of the time you'll have a JPEG. Pipes are in here, and we can go down pipe connectors, railway, bridge templates. So these are bridge templates, which are based on, so these are all the assemblies put together. So it's like a bridge assembly. So you'll have foundations and piers and stuff like that. So they're all assemblies. Watersheds, which is a style, it's like a coverage area style. And then you've got roads for your imported roads. Now that's where I'm going to start on the roads, because I downloaded this from the model builder and this is what I got. Okay, but these roads are very different. So this road here, I know it because I know the area well. It's an A road, whereas this is just a little local road. Now, when the data is in openstreetmap.org, it kind of knows a little bit about the information and it puts that information in. So it knew that that road was smaller than this road. Okay, so it just create a style based on the function of the road, like a service road. The function of that road is a primary road, and the function of that road is unclassified. So if the geeks, the mapping geeks, have put let me turn that phone on so it stops making a noise. If the mapping geeks have put the data in, brilliant. If they haven't, no good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, and then we're going to build a road style that suits us. And then we can import our road style. So I'll just delete these roads anyway, because I'm going to import them from the Ordnance Survey Open Mapping portal, which is changing 1st of July. Anybody who's using the free Ordnance Survey, it is. I got an email this morning about it. It is changing to a new single data portal. So keep your eye on that. You'll have to create a new account, sign in, etc. So for our roads, I'll just show you how we can create a road style in here. And what I'll do is I'll just create a new folder, a new catalog. Here it is, and I'll just call this one. I'll just call it webinar for now, just so you know I've done it. This is the one I've done. I'll be deleting it later on. And then in that webinar, I can either copy one of these into it that's close to what I want, and then edit that. That might be a good way of working rather than starting from scratch. So if I just find a nice simple one, Asphalt Road, I can copy it into a folder and just pick that one that I've just made. There it is at the bottom, webinar. Hit OK. So if I go into my webinar one, you'll see that Asphalt Road is in there. And I'm going to double click it to adjust it. And what we'll do is I'll just make a very basic road, and what I'll do is I will call it road. It's a roadway. I'm going to set it to 2.75 wide, like so. And we can turn on lane markings, but we'll need to set the lane markings. There'll be a colour in here that we can use, hopefully. No, there isn't. Okay, and this list here comes from the material group. So I'm just going to change the material group, and I'm going to go into Street Materials 2, and then you'll see I've got, oh, I don't want Street Materials 2, do I? I always find these easy if we put them into a list. Let's try Street Materials 1. That's better. There's my lane markings, so I can use that now. So if I just set that and set that to intersection material to intersection, road, outer materials, almost irrelevant, but I'll just put it onto roadway, lane marking material to lane markings, you can see it in there, and then we'll just go and set the material for the top surface to roadway. And there we are, like so. If I wanted to put a curb on there, I can go and add another element. Curb, width 0.125. Now, can you see that I've put it in the middle of the road here? I just need to move it to the outside of the road, and it puts it on both sides if that's switched on. Okay, if not, it'll just put it on the one side. But I'm going to mirror it. And if we zoom into here, and I put a height on there of 0.125. You'll see I've now got a curb on there. The red's denoting that there's no material on it, so I will set the top surface to the curb top and the inner surface to the curb side. And there we are, there's my curb. And then I'm going to add another one. I'll just move it to the bottom. Oh, I've moved it to the top, haven't I? And I'll just call it footpath. Some of these terminologies in here are Americanized, so you've got sidewalk and curly curb. And I'll make that 1.8. And we'll put in there whatever material we want. So we've got one already in there, like so. So I've made a particular road, so I'll just OK that. And then we'll update it in here. So I'll give it a new name, and I'll just call it side road, no lamps, etc. So we've got a sensible name for our road. Now what I can do from here is, if I go back to the parent and select the webinar, I can save it. If I click save, and I've got an area in here. This is really useful. You know how you manage your block libraries, and I know some of you don't manage your block libraries. When you were working in AutoCAD, you have usually you should keep a space for all your blocks. Do the same for these. So you'll see in my Infraworks models, I've got all my styles and my rules all in here. Okay, so everything is set up. Now what I've got is I've got a one for the webinar. So let me just go into the webinar. Libraries, here we are, data. Okay, so then I've got my styles, and I've already put some in here. So I've done the streets in here, and I'm going to show you how to import them. So I've done loads in there. I didn't want to spend the next hour just building these. So I've just shown you how to do it with this one, and you hit save, and now I have a JSON file which I can import with that street style anytime I want. Okay. Now I've already done this for, as I said, the whole of the DMRB standards. So if I go import here and add that in, street styles DMRB standards, and hit open. So I did this in a different model, just the way I've shown you now. Now I'm going to import them into this model, which doesn't have any of them DMRB standards. Just takes a minute. And what will happen is we'll have a little box in there. There it is, DMRB. And if I click in there, I've got rural, and I've got urban, got a lot more in the urban, single carriageway, a load of different styles of roads in there for all the different scenarios. So for example, this one here, I double click it, you see I've put street lights on it. And the size of it is 3.5 wide. This one here, 3.65, no footpath and a street lamp, etc. So you can save them all in a library. I'll just show you what that file looks like. It's a JSON file. Now you can open these JSON files. You can open them also in just Notepad if you don't have a code writer. And these are fully editable. Okay, so don't mess about with them if you're not sure what they are. But all the content, can you see here, they're using a format called SFF. Make a mental note of that. We're going to come back to that later on in a minute when we're looking at SFF files. Okay, so we can create lots of styles. It doesn't matter what you create. If you was going to go and create a style for coverage areas, you can again just create your own coverage area style. You can put in the fill, whatever color you want, whatever material you want. So if I want to create one with stone on it, I can. And I can choose to have a boundary on it, or I can remove the boundary. There's no boundary there. Okay, so you can create your own styles of anything you want, like coverages, roads, and what have you. We'll come back to 3D models in a minute. Okay, so let's start looking at these styles that we can use. So what I need in here is I need a load of mapping data. So I'm just going to go into here, and I've got map data. I've got the road data. Let's just show you what that road data looks like. So that's what the road data looks like. It's a 100-kilometre tile. This is the free stuff you get from the Ordnance Survey, and you'll see it's a 100-kilometre tile. So I'm actually working in a little village just here. It's actually there, Glenridding there, and that's Helvellyn round here. Okay, but if we have a look at the data that comes with them, every road has been classified. So it's either a minor road, an A road, a B road, a local road. It's got restrictions on it. It's got stuff like that. We can use that as well, and we can create a library of queries. So let me show you queries. First and foremost, I'll just drop this road data in. I'm not fussed about what style it comes in at this stage. You just need to tell it it's roads. I'm going to say that the name of it will be the road number, and the rules style will be that classification. Okay. On the geolocation, make sure it's on the British National Grid. On the source, make sure you drape it. And obviously it's 100 kilometres big, and our model's nowhere near that, so we're going to clip it to the model extents. Close and refresh, and it'll just put one style in for the moment. It's going to run out of time if I'm not careful. I'll try and speed up. Okay, but if we have a look at this road here, you'll see it's the A592, and the rule style is it's an A road, whereas this road here doesn't have a name, but it's just a local road. So what we can do is we can, now we've got our library in here, my style palette of roads. There we are. And I can go in and pick my single carriageways, and I can say that one looks like that, etc. So we could spend ages just dragging and dropping these styles on there. And that one looks like that, for argument's sake. Instead of doing that, we can create rules. Now, rules can be part of your library. Your style rules are here, there, style rules. If I just go to them, and you'll see I can have rules for barriers. So if a barrier's got a particular name, or a building, or any city furniture, or coverage areas. So I've got one for master map data, for example. So I can put a master map data straight from the Ordnance Survey, drag and drop it in here, run a rule, and it will automatically colour it up as the Ordnance Survey maps are, but it's in 3D, which is really cool. Maybe look at that when we do the mapping stuff. So here's the roads. Now, out of the box, we get all these rules in here. I'm just going to delete them. Now, the rules are slightly different. Here's the library, so I can create an element, a rule, if you like, and the per element. So I'll create a rule for roads. I can export and import them and copy them, move the rules up and down and edit the names. But I can also export all the rules. So when I have the rules for everything set up, I can export them into a single file, then re-import them in and just run the rules. So for example, in here, I could say, if I go create a rule, and I'll just call it A roads, I can go in here and say, right, if the data says, double click it, I'll create an expression. These expression windows are really useful. You can just start typing, I can just start typing in here. But if I go into common and find style rule, oh no, it'll be under stylization, there we are. So style rule, so if the style rule equals, and then A road, you can just type it, but just in case, because you've got to get the syntax exactly right, you can select it from here. So if I go and find style rule here, there, rule style should I say, A road, double click it. So I can say so this rule is if it's an A road, make it, go to my DMRB, it'll be easy just going here, DMRB, I'll make it an urban single carriageway, and we'll make it that one there. Okay, hit OK, and run the rules. So now what should happen is it should find the whole of that A road and it should update it, which it has. So that whole A road, I haven't had to go in and individually update that A road. It does everything that says that. So we can take that a little bit further, and I'll delete that rule because I've done one for all of the roads. So if I go and import the ones here's the ones I did earlier. Oh my God. Brain fade, here we are. Rules. I've got one there called DMRB. There's that master map one. Won't have time to cover that, but there we are. So it's now imported 11 rules. So there we are. Rule equals motorway or A road. I know there's no motorways in Glenridding, but you make the rules for all scenarios, then you only have to import them once. So I've got A roads, B roads, and I've got loads of rules in there. Okay, so if I just run them rules, and it's now updated all the roads relevant to them rules. So the library of rules, I think, certainly for data that we're bringing in, is probably just as important as a library of actual styles, etc. Okay, so let's carry on and let's have a look at other things. We can actually create style rules, styles, style palettes or libraries of things like Revit models. So let's just find somewhere to stick a Revit model. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna just delete these. We're going to build some new houses in here. Now I've got a Revit model here of a couple of buildings. They're just standard Revit files, RVT files, and you saw me drag and drop these in last time. I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to go to my source models. I'm going to drag that one in here. And we're going to have a look at how the software handles this data and what it creates. Now, if you've got, get your brain in gear, if you've got Navisworks, then that model is converted locally on your machine. If you haven't got Navisworks installed, then it's packaged up, sent to Autodesk, they do the conversion and they send it back down. Both scenarios give you the same result. I'm going to show you where it's going to store this file. I'm slightly regretting putting a model of this detail in because it's taking a little bit longer. It's not the end of the world though, because I've already got a Revit model in here, so we can go and have a look. We're in. There we go. So I'll just double check that model looks okay. Yep, that looks okay. Quite happy with that. Windows are all in the right place. So we'll tell it to use direct display, so it's not going to dumb down the geometry. And we will just interactively place it. And we're going to plonk it there for now. Double click and close and refresh. Okay, so let's just spin that around. So the front door's at the front. And just to be correct on this, what I'll do is I'll just put some coverage area around there just to flatten it. Obviously, I'm not going to do it carefully. We're not learning how to do that today. But like all of us that are in this game, we like it right, don't we? Drive you nuts otherwise. Lift it to the foundation boundary. There we go. Okay. Right, so we now have a Revit model. So if you're doing like housing estates and things like that, I did a presentation called Use the Data That You Didn't Know They Gave You. Go and look that one up. You'll find that really useful. But let's have a look at what it's done to this model. If we go into where this model's stored, so this is in the cloud. I've created it as a cloud model. This could equally be on your computer. Now, when you've created it as a cloud model, you can see it's locked. This is the one I'm looking at. It does a local cache. If you have it on this computer, then everything's stored on this computer. It's exactly the same. If we go into the resources folder and the 3D models, you'll see I've got two folders in there. One of them will be the first Revit model I put in last week. The other one will be this one here. They're coded up, so I don't know which is which. So we need to go in and have a look. This is obviously that one. There's that brick render material. But there it is. It's created this Ashford JSON file, and it's also created this Ashford SSF file. If you have a dynamic LOD set, I put it to direct display, you'll have Ashford AS SSF, and then you'll have Ashford AS 1 SSF, 2 SFF, 3 SFF. And they're all the different level of details. But it's this SFF that I'm interested in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this file, this folder, should I say. So if I copy this and put it in here. Okay, so models, and I will paste it in here. That's good, isn't it? Windows is struggling. I can hear my computer working its little pants off, so I don't know what it's doing. I have got quite a lot running mind. There it is. I'm going to rename it. Like so. So this is me building up my library, because what I can now do is I can go to my style palette, 3D models, into the parent there. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it UK houses. And in the UK houses, I'm going to create a new style. Make that a bit bigger so you can see it. Currently it's empty. Of that file. There's the SSF file. Open. There it is. Again, it's now fixed to auto adjust because there's only one SSF file in there. There was multiple. I could adjust that. I could even put a little bit of an offset. So if I do translation in the Z minus 0.5, that'll drop it half a meter. It should be okay, so that when I import it on the map, it'll the insertion point, if you like. And that's fine. Local origin, and hit OK. Call it Ashford. And then I can build up this library of all these other things, all these other buildings in there, and then I can save it. So if I go save, put this in my styles here, and it's 3D model UK houses styles. That would be a list of all of the ones if you do loads of them. I can now use that in any model without having to import the Revit file ever again. Similarly, if I was to do that with a SketchUp file. Now with a SketchUp file, you can do it that way, where it does the conversion on the skip file and what have you. However, if you go to the 3D warehouse and download that, you can download it as a collada file. That industry standard, ISO recommended format. I've already done that, so you don't have to watch me download that. Now, if I have it as a collada file, I'm going to create another folder, call it UK cars. And I'm going to create a new one. And in here, if I hit this ellipses here, look at the file formats. 3ds, 3ds Max, DAE, that's your collada file, DXF, FBX, OBJ, SFF, SVF. So I can go and find the Mini Cooper DAE file. So I don't have to do anything. Straight from the 3D warehouse, I have this nice little Mini Cooper. We'll put it at center 2D. We will set it to direct display. And we'll hit OK. And we'll call it Mini. Again, I can save this folder. Now the save on here, what you want to do is select the folder, UK Cars, and save. UK Cars, Styles, save. Which is really handy because, of course, all within this model, I can create things and just insert them. If I was to go, I don't know, city furniture, and type in the search Mini, there's my Mini, and I can place it in as often as I like. I don't have to go and import it every time. Same with the building. I know I'm doing a city furniture, but if I type in Ashford, there it is. I can go and place that building in. So it's in the model now, in this model, but because I've saved it, I can put it into any model I want. Similarly, if I go to Civil 3D, I've created this just as an AutoCAD DWG traffic light, as a 3D DWG. That's all it is. And I've got one in green and one in red. So if I want to put traffic lights in but save them forever, because they're not in the standard country kit, I can do the same thing again. I can just go in, 3D models, oh no, not that one, source files. So if I go to my source models, traffic light green, lights are always green on my head. Now if it's a DWG, it's either a civil model, which this isn't, or it's a 3D model, which this is, or it's a 2D overlay, which this isn't. So make sure you pick the right one, hit OK. It will do the conversion for me, and I can create a library of traffic lights, UK signs, anything you can make in AutoCAD, you can make your library for here. I'll put this in city furniture. I'll double check it in the 3D model. That looks okay. Geolocation, I'll just put it center 2D, and we'll put it on that one, and we'll interactively place it. There it is. I know you're not going to put a traffic light here, but I am. And close and refresh. So there is my traffic light. In the middle of a housing estate. Okay. So let's just go and have a look at where that's stored. If I go to 3D models, look, there's 3 in there now. Just look at the latest one. My God, is that the time? And there's the SFS. So you can create a library of that now. You'll never need to import that again and output that and save that. So let's go and just have a look at doing that in another model. So if I was to do that in another model, just to prove a point, let's do, I'll just open this one that's just an OS map. There's nothing else in it. Might regret that. Nope. There we go. Okay. So if I go to my content and go to 3D models, nothing in there. So I'm going to go and import them from the ones I've just created. So if I went into styles, and there's my cars. There it is. There's my Mini. And similarly, I'll do the same with the houses. And let's add a house. So they're in. So I'll just go in and I will create one. Again, I'll just do it on city furniture just to prove a point. There's the Ashford. And I can now start building a housing estate with all my standard houses. When I'm working with house builders, you've probably got 10 different houses that you generally use, and there's a few edits on there, etc., and what have you. Okay, so that's an introduction into using libraries. My advice is keep it tidy. That's the only thing I can say. Just keep it tidy. you can get in a real mess with all, like with your block libraries. You've all done it. You've all been into offices where the libraries are all over the place. But managing that will save you bucket loads of time. Right, I think we should stop at that point because we will be running more webinars later on as well. So, time for question and answers. There's a couple come in already. If anybody has any extra questions, ask them now. No, there isn't. They're all just comments. It's fine. Thank you for your comments. I see a lot of hands up. It's because I didn't cancel all your hands, did I? There you are. Oh, here we are. Bear with me while I read this. Okay, so replacing road gullies. So the road gullies can be built properly in Inventor, but actually the ones in here are pretty good, aren't they? I know it's a bit weird putting it on here, but if I was to create drainage network, so my inlets will be these objects. Is that the one? No, that wasn't the one. Is that the right one? God, I can't remember now. Obviously, I've done it on a wibbly wobbly OS map, so it's a bit wibbly wobbly, but if I lift that up, they're not bad, are they? They're not too bad. The ones in Civil 3D, it's all about the data in Civil. So Civils is not about presentation. So I think it's purely a data thing. And anybody who has problems with drainage in there, you're not on your own. People are assuming that it's about getting this beautiful 3D model. It's not. It's about getting a 3D data model out. And actually, most of the stuff in the UK is done in Windows micro drainage now, and we can get the data out and back in again. But they can be built. You can do your own in there. If I went to, where will I find it? It's a really good question, this. I should have checked beforehand. Drainage parts editor. Here you go. So if I go in and open up the drainage parts library, so in here you can make your own. It's a little bit like a cut down inventor. So we have all the individual components, the structures and the tops, and you create an assembly of them. Now all the objects can be made in Inventor, and you can make your own ones of these as well. This comes with Civil 3D and it comes with Infraworks, and you can choose which elements go in there, and you can do size validations and create your own sizes and what have you. We will be running a training course on that soon. We were planning on doing it about now, but the COVID thing got in the way. So yeah, you can create your own versions with this, and it comes free with it. It's basically, if anybody remembers, if you're an old user of Civil 3D, I don't mean old by age, but using it a long time ago, there was a Project Chameleon, and this is basically the Project Chameleon come to fruition. So in the background is a kind of an Inventor engine to simplify things. But to put these in here, you need Inventor again, okay? It is Chameleon, yeah. Okay. Hopefully, well, that's it. I don't think I've missed any questions. You're welcome to email me if you have any questions. I'll give you my details. Basically, if you need support as well, I know it's a bit weird at the moment, and if you've got a support contract with us, then carry on as normal. But we're also supporting you beyond the normal. You know, if you're at home and you can't remember how to do something and the book's in the office and you want a little bit of kind of training support, we're doing a balance on that. We can't train well, we do train online, but we can't train within the support realm, but we can do a little bit of pointing in the right direction and helping you. So if you've broken something, carry on using support. If you just need a little bit of a nudge in the right direction because you've forgotten something, yeah, use support, and I'm sure we can help with that. Our job is, at the moment, we're all in this together, and I hate saying these catchphrases that you hear all the time, but we are really, you know, we've got to make our industry successful, and without your success, we're not successful. So we want to support you as much as we can. So please use it. You can send me emails as well, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Okay, so there's our contact details. I'll finish the webinar now. I will leave up the what do you call them? The webinars for the next couple of minutes, so you can just jot down when the next ones will be. Okay. Oh, hang on, Kieran, you've asked a question. Can you rely on just Inventor Lite? It's cheaper. That's an excellent question that I don't know the answer to. I have your email address. I think the answer is yes, but I'll double check. Okay. Can't see why it wouldn't work. Right. Okay. Thanks, guys, and see you next week if you want to come and see the next one, which is quantities, rudimentary quantities. Thanks very much. See ya.